Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please join us for Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we will be studying Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 51. Lord Krishna establishes Dvārakā. Please join us for Jai Radha Madhava prayers. Jai Radha Madhava Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Janant Kori Vaishnavrind ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayanam Namaskritya
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jayam Udirye
Tato Jayamudirye
Shratam Swakatha Kṛṣṇa
Shravtam Sakatha Kṛṣṇa
Punya Shamana Kirtanaha
Punya Shravana Kirtana
Hridayantasto Bhadrani
Hridayantasvaya Bhadrani
Vidunoti Suhasatam
Vidunoti Sahritsatam
Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu
Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya
Bhagavate Uttam Shloke
Bhagavate Ruttam Shloke
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Hare Krishna. So today we'll be studying Srimad Bhagavatam 10th Canto, Chapter 50. Krishna establishes Dvārakā. And in this chapter we'll see how Lord Krishna is an ocean of mercy. Kripa Sindhu. So please join us in the recitation of first few verses. Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, Chapter 50, verse 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha
Shri Shukovacha
Asti Praptischa Kamsyasya
Asti Praptisya Kansasya
Mahisha Bharatarshava
Mahisha Bharatarshava
Mrate Bharatari Dukkharte
Vrite Bhartari Dukharte
Iyatu Swapitu Grahan.
Iyatu Svapritu Grahan.
Please.
Shri Shukovacha
Shri Shuka Uvacha
Asti Praptischa Kamsasya
Asti Praptischa Kamsasya
Mahishyo Bharatarshava
Mahisha Bharatarshava
Mrite Bhartari Dukharte
Mrate Bharatari Dukkharte
Iyatu Sma Pitur Grahan.
Yatu Sma Pitu Grahan. Shri Shuka Uvacha.
Shri Shukovacha
Shri Shukdev Goswami said,
Shri Shukdev Goswami said
Asti Prapti cha.
Asti Prapti cha
Asti and Prapti.
Asti and Prapti
Kamsyasya.
Kamsasya
Of Kams.
of Kans
Mahisha.
Mahisha
The queens.
the queens
Bharat Rishabha.
Bharata Rishabha,
O hero of the Bharatas.
O hero of the Bharatas,
Parikshit.
Parikshit,
Mrate.
Vrite,
Having been killed.
having been killed,
Bhartari.
Bhartari,
Their husband.
their husband,
Dukha.
Dukkha,
With unhappiness.
with unhappiness,
Arte.
Arte,
Distressed.
distressed,
Iyatuhu.
Iyatu,
Small.
Sma,
They went.
they went,
Pituhu.
Pitu,
Of their father.
of their father,
Grahan.
Grahan,
To the house.
to the house.
Translation by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Shukdev Goswami said, Hare Krishna. Translation. Shukdev Goswami said, when Kams was killed, O heroic descendant of Bharat, his two queens, Asti and Prapti, went to their father's house in great distress. There is no purpose. We'll read next few verses. Verse 2. The sorrowful queens told their father, King Jarasandh of Magad, all about how they had become widows. Hearing this odious news, O king, Jarasandha was filled with sorrow and anger, and he began the greatest possible endeavor to rid the earth of the Yadavas. Text 4. With a force of 23 Akshauhini divisions, he laid siege to the Yadu capital Mathura on all sides. Purport. The numbers involved in an Akshauhini division are given in the word meanings. An Akshauhini was a standard fighting force in ancient times. Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tadham Vande Shigurum Dinataranam Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So there is a reference given of Akshauhini. And I wanted to quickly capture that. What does it mean to have Akshauhini? So, an Akshauhini is a solid phalanx which consists of 21,870 chariots, 21,870 elephants, 109,650 infantry and 65,600 cavalry. So together they are called a solid phalanx. And how many phalanxes did Jarasandha is taking? 23 Akshauhinis. Now we will come to the very basic topics, because this is where Shukdev Goswami is speaking Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. And he is describing that there was, after Kṛṣṇa was killed, and who killed Kṛṣṇa? None other than Lord Vasudeva. So after having killed Kṛṣṇa, his wives, they all, and his prime queens were Asti and Prapti. So they were lamenting that if he had not killed the sons of his sister Devaki, and had not been so atrocious to the citizens of Mathura and the descendants of King Yadu, the Yadavas, then this would not have been his cause of death, and they would not have become widows. So they are, married to Kṛṣṇa, and now their marriage is also a very nice story. We have covered it in the past, yet at the same time, we see how they come into picture. So once it just so happened that Jarasandha, the king of Magad. Now who is Jarasandha? Somebody could say, yes, and that's also an important question. So who is Jarasandha? Who is this king of Magad? He is glorified as son of Bradratha, the king of Magad before him, so his father. So King Bradratha did not have a son for a long time. So he was asking for a son. So by the mercy of great sacrifice, the sage provided him a mango, and to give to his queen. So the sage did not know that this king has two queens. So he gave him a mango as a fruit. So we also see in Ramayana, Maharaj Dashrath, he received the mango, right? And he said that when he gave the fruit, he gave two big pieces, like, two slices one to mother of Lord Ramchandra, I just skipped, Kaushalya. Another one to Kekai. And then, the centerpiece, he gave it to Sumitra, his third queen. So, from Kaushalya, Lord Ram took birth. From Kekai, Bharat he took birth. And then, from Sumitra, Shatrughna and Lakshman, they took birth as twins. So here, thinking in a similar manner, he cut the fruit into two halves, gave one to his one wife and second to his another wife, not understanding what's the potency of that fruit. And now when the children are born, both queens, they gave birth to a baby whose only half body was there. So one arm, one leg, half of his central part, one eye, part of one nose, nostril, one ear, part of his mouth, only the teeth and so forth. So again, there are no teeth, of course, in the case of infants. So again, this child was born in two halves. So seeing and was appearing to be dead. So they, realizing that this is not a auspicious sign, and of course this is a dead, in two pieces the child is born. The king realizes mistake, but at that time this child was asked to be disposed of. And the maidservants of the king and the queens, they disposed of in a bush. Now it just so happened that there was a demoness by the name Jara. She was passing by and she sees these two pieces. Now she has this mystic power. As soon as she joined the two pieces, the child came to life. And at that time, she took this child, knowing that this was, from the queens, these two parts. She went to the king and presented him the child, a living child. So that's why in the text, Shukdev Goswami even calls Jarasandha as Jarasutta, son of Jara, because Jara became the Janani, the life-giving personality to the king of Magad, in this case Jarasandha. So the king, Brihadratha, became very proud. So because he was so happy with Jara for having done this and bringing his, the two bodies, joining them together and bringing the baby to life, he named the child Jarasandha. Sandh means joining together. Sandhi, we hear. Sandhi is, uniting two parties. So there is another treatise, is another term in Western world. But in reality, when joining two parties, collaborating together for them to come to a common agreement which benefits both of them. So such is the case that part one was dead, part two was dead, but together they were joined in together, and then the together joined part was a live child. So that is where both parts benefited for having joined together. So Jarasandha. So this is where actually we hear a very nice lesson. So sometimes people say when there is two parties in conflict and they come together, everybody wants the bigger piece of the cake. But the interesting part is an intelligent advisor who can cut the cake in such a way that both parties get the best part. Both parties feel that they got the best they could. And this is given by a very nice example. Some of the Western scholars also write about such examples. So there is this nice example. Once a parent, when parents come, they see the son and daughter in fight. They're fighting for a piece of, for an orange. And without really understanding what's the purpose, why do they need it, they cut the orange in two halves and give it to each of their children. And that is like compromise. Both of them felt that they only got half and they're not satisfied with half. What was the real purpose? The daughter wanted the rye of the orange, to make cake. And the son wanted to drink the juice of the orange. So the better solution would have been, then they take the juice out and that, the leftover is given to the daughter so she can use it for the cake, while juice can be given to the son. And both have received exactly what they wanted, 100%. Instead of getting 50% what they wanted and 50% what they did not want. So a dead half part of the baby and another half part of the baby together have no value, but when brought together, Sandhi, a living child, was of great value to the king. So this is what we also learn from the Shastras sometimes, that when the agreement is done, it is done in such a way that both parties benefit. And Lord Krishna shows this in this pastime. Lord Krishna shows that he is so merciful. Krishna Surya Sama Maya He Andhakara Jahan Krishna taha nahi mayara adhikara. So Lord Krishna is like the sun, while material energy Maya is like darkness. So where there is sun, there cannot be darkness. We understand this. But the concept is important. That when sun shines, it doesn't just drive away darkness. Rather, it purifies everything. If it falls on normal ground, if it falls, when people do sunbathing, they are glancing at sun early morning, which is energizing them. There are many personalities who have actually not eaten for many days, not even for years. They are constantly doing just sun gazing in the morning and evening. By looking at the sun, their body gets energized. So sun has this great potency. Yet at the same time, sun rays can also fall, on bad stuff, right? Stool and urine, and disinfects it. So that area gets disinfected, which was initially polluted. So Lord Krishna, he is benefiting no matter what he does. He is our best friend, so to any harm. Yes, sometimes people get upset that God is causing all these troubles for us. Even for COVID-19, people tend to blame Lord Krishna or God. Well, that's their ignorance, because they don't realize that it is something that's born of our behavior, right? It is because of living entities. So once Srila Prabhupada, he was conversing with his disciples, and one of the disciples was saying, how is Lord Krishna, why is it so hard? Why is he causing all this trouble, distress? Why do bad things happen to good people and all those? So Srila Prabhupada rebuked him, saying that Lord Krishna is all good, and it is us, the living entities. We are the cause of the misery. Material energy is jada, it cannot do anything on its own. So it has to be a living force doing something. Lord Krishna, so again we are understanding, so I'm paraphrasing some of the aspects. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining to us, he rebukes his disciple by saying, it is not Lord Krishna who did this, it is you who did this. So again, very strong words. Yet at the same time, we have to understand, why did he say that? So that's what we are trying to understand here. So Srila Prabhupada is, in his instructions, again and again revealing to us that Lord Krishna is Surhridam Sarva Bhutanam. He is the well-wisher of every living entity. So we need some living force. If Lord Krishna is not causing all this misery, it's coming from this material world. But material world is jada, right? It's dull. Dull matter on its own cannot move or do anything. There has to be a living force. So who's this? What is this living force? It is the living entities. So it is said very nicely that there is enough in the world to meet everyone's need, but it is not enough to meet even one man's greed. So when we realize this, that it is because of the greed, because of the envy, because of the lust, because of asking for more and more and hoarding more than what is needed, we are the ones who are causing havoc in this material world. And realizing that when we do not follow the injunctions of the Shastras, do not perform our duties, our prescribed duties, then automatically the reactions come. So of course there has to be an action before comes the reaction. And it is us who have to take responsibility. Now in today's times, people are saying, oh, the bats, in China, in this particular place, Wuhan, they were the cause and the disease comes. They're blaming over there, not realizing that they still have the cow slaughtering going on here. So you have to correct your behavior. You have to be compassionate, because that's what we hear, that Lord Krishna is an ocean of mercy. And he is so compassionate towards all living entities. Even when he comes to show his compassion. What are the causes of Lord Krishna's advent to the material world? Paritranaya sadhunam, vinashaya cha dushkritam, dharma sansthapanāthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. He is revealing in Bhagavad Gita that paritranaya sadhunam, to protect the pious, to protect the devotees, to protect good people, vinashaya cha dushkritam, and to annihilate the miscreants, the impious, the sinful people, and to re-establish religion, dharma sansthapanāthaya, Sambhavami yuge yuge. I advent to this material world millennium after millennium. So he's revealing that even, these are the three purposes. But let's go deeper. When Lord annihilate the miscreants, what happens to those miscreants? These miscreants, when killed by the hands of Lord Vasudeva, they go to Vaikuntha, right? So they have attained the purpose of their life. That doesn't mean that you become bad person. That is to understand that Lord Krishna is so merciful. And also to protect the devotees, paritranaya sadhanam, to protect the devotees, vinashaya cha dushkritam, to annihilate the miscreants, and to establish religion. Why does he establish religion? So that we can be peaceful here, engaging in devotional service, to be able to spiritually advance and go back home, back to Godhead. So he wants all of us to go back home, back to Godhead, and is willing to share what is his. Lord is open-heartedly willing to share all his possessions with us, the living entities. And he is not going to even charge a penny as rent, which is shown in this case when Lord Krishna establishes Dvārakā. And so coming back to this particular chapter, we understand who Jarasandha is. He is son of Brihadratha, king of Magad. So after his father, he becomes king of Magad, and he is on this rampage. So again, prior to the marriage of Asti and Prapti, his daughters, he is going on defeating kings after kings, converting their armies into his armies, growing his strength. Yet at the same time, we also heard in the story of Kuvalpidya, he was in the previous birth. Kuvalpidya is the elephant who was in Vindhyachal hills, and he had the strength of 10,000 elephants. Now, how did this elephant got the strength of 10,000 elephants is also a wonderful story. In his previous life, he was son of Bali Maharaj. His name was Mandagati, and he had the strength of 10,000 elephants. And he was in Rangashetra. He wanted to see the deities. And so when he was trying to see the deities, there was a huge crowd. And at that time, he wanted to move forward, but then because of the crowd, he could not move forward. He didn't see it. So he started pushing people around to move forward. And since he was so strong, he was able to easily push people around. And by pushing people around, sometimes you create offenses. People get offended when you're pushing them around. So there was a Trita Muni, a great sage. He was there. When he was pushed, he cursed him that you are walking, you are, going like an elephant, so you become an elephant. And right then and there, as soon as the curse was spoken, Mandgati, his body fell, his gross body fell down. And he realized the big offense he has committed by offending this sage. And so he immediately asked for forgiveness, bowing his hands in his subtle form. So he received a ghost form, and in that form he prayed to the Rishi. He's saying, Trita Muni, you are a great sage, and I'm so sorry for my offenses. And you can curse one and you can bless one. And I am, asking for apology. So when he is asking, he is sorry. He is expressing it with his, full humility, realizing. And at that time, the sage realizes that he had this great desire to see the deities. And because of that, he committed this offense, right? If it was not his desire to see the deities, he would not have committed the offense. He had this strong desire and he wanted to go there. And because of that, this offense was committed. So then, Trita Muni becomes so magnanimous. This is the magnanimity of a devotee of the Lord. That he says that since I gave you this curse that you will become an elephant, it cannot be untrue. So it will happen. However, I will give you a boon that even demigods don't get. And he says that you will be killed by the hands of Lord Kṛṣṇa. So you will be delivered by the hands of Lord Kṛṣṇa, and you will be able to attain the purpose, the goal of this life by going back home, back to Godhead. And so this son of Bali Maharaj, Mandgati, he becomes Kuvalpidya, elephant, with the strength of 10,000 elephants. Jarasandha comes to know that there is this elephant in the Vindhya hills which has the strength of 10,000 elephants. So with the help of 100,000 elephants, he is able to capture this elephant, right? You need to have more the strength to be able to capture something that is so strong. And what he would do is, when he would go to fight with a king at that time, he would just let loose this Kūlpiḍya elephant, and this elephant would cause havoc and easily win the battle. So Jarasandha was on his rampage. One after another he was winning. And he was at the outskirts of Mathura. And this is during the time of Kṛṣṇa, right? Much before, because his daughters were not yet married to Kṛṣṇa. And it just so happened that Kūlpiḍya, who was the elephant, was chained heavily in the center of the camp that they had set outside Mathura, planning to attack the next morning. Kūlpiḍya elephant was able to get loose, and it just ran towards Mathura city, towards the big gates. And it entered the city. So as soon as a mad elephant enters the city, you can imagine what would happen. All the residents will be walking hither and thither. They will be shouting, crying out, and in panic and anxiety. So at that time, Kṛṣṇa was in his wrestling arena, wrestling with Charur and Mushtika. It's a friendly wrestling. He's the king and they are his slaves. And we also covered how these were actually the, sons of Mahishpatipuri, the king of Mahishpatipuri. So, and how Kṛṣṇa had defeated them and they had to become his slaves. And they were his wrestlers. So Kṛṣṇa, realizing that this commotion he could hear some commotion outside. So he walked out of the wrestling arena. At the gate of wrestling arena, what does he see? He sees this mad elephant is coming in his direction. And as soon as the elephant comes, he holds the trunk and flips the elephant completely, like giving it a whole whack onto the ground. The elephant is bewildered, but before it can even understand what has happened. So this is Kūlpiḍya elephant, who has the strength of 10,000 elephants. And Kṛṣṇa, just with his one hand, is able to beat it so badly. And then he picks it up, whirls it around and throws it. And it goes 100 yojanas outside Mathura and lands right in the center of the camp of Jarasandha. Now Jarasandha is shocked. He's like, who could do this? Who could defeat this elephant and throw it such a distance? And he comes to know that this was Kṛṣṇa, the king of Mathura. Now he has no hope of winning against Kṛṣṇa. He cannot fight Kṛṣṇa, he knows that. So there is a very simple political technique he uses, Rajniti, right? Which is, if you cannot defeat your enemy, then you befriend them. So, yet at the same time, Jarasandha wanted to be in a position of a superior. So he sends the proposal of his two daughters, Asti and Prapti, to Kṛṣṇa. And Kṛṣṇa, realizing that Jarasandha is a great warrior, is a very powerful king, and this will increase his opulence to have more powerful kings as his friends, he accepts this proposal. So now Asti and Prapti are married to to Kṛṣṇa. So Jarasandha's daughters are married to Kṛṣṇa, and later on, as we hear, as Lord Kṛṣṇa kills Kṛṣṇa, these two daughters of Jarasandha, they become widows. Now it appears that Kṛṣṇa did not have a son. So in that case, the Vedic society was built in such a way that women were always given proper protection. They are very simple by nature, and it is easy for bad kind of company to bewilder them. So when a girl is young, women, when she is in a young age, she is under the protection of her father, so that she can properly grow, have a nice life. When she becomes young lady, then she is under the protection of her husband. And when husband dies or takes to Vanaprastha or sannyas, at that time she is under the protection and care of her sons. But apparently these two, but if there is no son, Srila Prabhupada reveals in Kṛṣṇa book, if there is no son, then they go back to their father. So this is what has happened. This is what has been revealed, that after Kṛṣṇa was killed, these two queens, Asti and Prapti, queens of Kams, they went back to their father, who is king of Magad, Jarasan. And Magad is also today's Bihar province, Bihar state. So when they went back, he became very sad. First is, such a great warrior has been killed, Kans. That is one. Second is, his daughters have become widows. And this has only happened because of the Yadus. So he is thinking of Yadavas, the descendants of Yadus, the Vrishnis, the Shatvakas, and the Bhojas. So Kans was a Bhoja king. Yet at the same time, he is in such an anxiety and he is feeling such a sorrow that he becomes angry, right, because of distress and because of his affection. So he is at the bodily platform level and under the mode of passion. So this is, Kshatriyas were under the mode of passion. Being influenced by the mode of passion, they show heroism, they show protection. And he feels that he was not able to protect his daughters sufficiently. So he wants to avenge the death of his son-in-law. And so he gathers 23 Akshauhini armies to attack Mathura, because he is saying that I will annihilate all the Yadavas, all the descendants of Yadu. And of course, starting with Lord Vasudeva Kṛṣṇa. So Lord Vasudeva is the one who killed Kansa, so he is definitely thinking that I have to avenge. Yet at the same time, he shows some different behavior when later on Lord Kṛṣṇa is in front of him. So this is where he has taken 23 Akshauhini armies and he's attacking Mathura. And at that time, seeing such an army surrounding the city of Mathura, though it is protected by walls and big gates, the residents are scared. And Lord Kṛṣṇa is thinking at this time that I have to make some arrangement to satisfy this residents, yet at the same time, the reason I take birth is paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sansthapanathaye sambhavami yoge yoge. I have to protect the devotees, which is in this case the residents of Mathura, and annihilate the miscreants, which is all the armies that Jarasandha has brought, and re-establish religion, which is, in proper sense, providing such a society where everyone is performing their prescribed duties very nicely. So he is conversing with Balaram, planning to, respond to the armies who have surrounded Mathura and causing so much anxiety in the hearts of the residents of Mathura. And at that time, from the celestial planets, and Srila Jiva Goswami as well as Srila Jiva Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, both of them agreed that these two chariots came from Vaikuntha Loka. So there are two chariots coming, one for Lord Kṛṣṇa. Of course, his charioteer is Dvārakā, and he has the flag with the sign of Garud. And Lord Balaram's chariot has a flag with the sign of palm tree. And all the divine weapons appear. And at that time, Lord Kṛṣṇa says, our purpose is to annihilate the miscreants and to protect the devotees. So dear brother, please, my dear elder brother, please join me. So Lord Sankarshan, being incited so by Lord Vasudeva, agrees. So Balaram is also known as Sankarshan. So that in this pastime, he is appearing as Sankarshan. And Lord Kṛṣṇa is appearing as Vasudeva, son of Vasudeva. So both of them, they mount these chariots, and with a small army, no big, not even an Akshauhini, small phalanx, they are going out of the gates of Mathura city to face Jarasandha. Now here, Jarasandha is, as soon as he sees Lord Kṛṣṇa, he says, "Oh Kṛṣṇa," and he calls him by various names, insulting names. Now, if you don't value any relationship, this is the easiest way to destroy a relationship, by calling other person names. So that's another lesson we hear, that when we are in a relationship, and we should always try to have a loving relationship, we should always try to have a pleasing relationship, we should always try to have a relationship where we see the other person and our heart opens up like a lotus full blooming lotus. And our senses are filled with, transcendental bliss that, oh. And that's why devotees, they put on tilak. They put on various paraphernalia to remind others that we are devotees. So when a devotee sees another devotee, automatically they become jubilant. And if they don't become jubilant, then it's a namaprad, right? An offense to the holy name. So when we see a devotee, we should become jubilant. And one of the characteristics is that the devotee in the devotee attire has this feeling just like, this body is a temple of Lord Kṛṣṇa. And we, Lord Kṛṣṇa is residing in our heart, and in that particular, in the corners of our heart, where He is constantly being remembered and is constantly being meditated upon. So with that mood, when a devotee is meditating constantly, they are in transcendental bliss. And seeing another devotee, it becomes double, quadruple, and grows unlimitedly. Especially when they're working together. So it is very important in any relationship, not just devotees, in the relationship of brother to another brother or sister, relationship of father and mother, relationship of husband-wife, relationship of parents and children, and even the relationship of a friend to another friend. We should never call names. So that is very important. We should be very careful, because calling names, calling and rebuking using different names is more hurtful than arrows. If you are cut by an arrow or a sharp weapon, then over a period of time the wound will heal. But if you are cut by words, then they can be so sharp that those wounds can bleed for whole life and could sever such a loving relationship that it would make the life very sorrowful. Now here, Jarasandha is calling Lord Kṛṣṇa by various names. He is calling Lord Kṛṣṇa as Naradhama, right? So just like we hear Atya in Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami uses the various ways once bhakti is destroyed. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangascha lalyamcha sadbhir bhakti vinashyati. So he's giving this formula that there are 6 ways once devotional service is destroyed. Atyahara, eating more than necessary, which can also be said that hoarding more than necessary, because that's showing material greed. Lalyam is a different factor which, if transcendentally oriented, can be a very good thing. But the same thing, a material greed, to hoard more than what you need, could be a very bad thing and can destroy your devotional service. Prayasya, doing endeavor beyond the need. So over endeavoring, because when you do over endeavor, what happens? First of all, you are trying to do over endeavor because of greed, because of attraction, because of wanting to achieve a specific goal. And if it's a material goal, you become exhausted. And after all this endeavor, you say, okay, now I have to enjoy. And then you do worse things with that mood. Rather, it is better to endeavor just sufficiently to sustain yourself and then engage the remaining time in devotional service. Chanting and Kirtanam, Smaranam Kirtanam Vishnu. So again, we chanting and glorifying the Lord and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and other great scriptures, transcendental scriptures, and constantly remembering Lord. Right? We talked about how the Smaran Leela is the best way of advancing in devotional service in the association of devotees, because we are constantly conversing with each other. So here, there is one word being used. Tyahara prasya prajalpo. Prajalpa is gossip, useless talk. So when people engage in useless talk, that's another way of destroying the time, the precious time we have in this human life, and causes us to more get in the quicksand of this material world. Just like quicksand, daldal, just keeps you in and it becomes harder for you to get out. Just like that, gossip takes away the precious time and pulls us further down to the lower modes of material nature. And niyamagraha. Now niyamagraha can be said niyam agraha, means agraha is completely avoiding. So niyam is various rituals, rules and regulations. So they completely avoid rituals. So that is another thing. So when we are having spiritual experience, which means we understand the spirit behind a ritual, and we don't perform ritual, then of course it's our loss. Just like reading the books, they're easily available. You can go online and can read all Srila Prabhupada's books. But if we don't take that, we just avoid it, then it's a great loss. And the 4 regulative principles, if you don't follow that, then it's a great loss. So sometimes people avoid it. And sometimes niyama agraha. Niyama agraha. Agraha is like you have attraction too much for this. So we heard about Prachin Bhari king, who was carrying out animal sacrifices one after another without really paying attention what he is doing. And Devashi Narad had to tell him that all you are causing is havoc for your future life, future births. Because all these animals, the souls are waiting when you will take birth and they will eat you. So sometimes when we become too hardcore, too hard-hearted, thinking of the various rituals, and you are following those rituals without understanding the spirit behind them, and causing difficulty for the body and also the super soul in our heart. So that is also very important that we should not do. So similarly, Purushadhama, when he said, so when Jarasangha is saying that you are the most fallen of all the Purushas, this Saraswati Devi, goddess of learning, she is using the same word in glorifying Kṛṣṇa. Because the word can be split, as Sridhar Swami explains, Purusha Adhama. So one who makes in front of him, all men are fallen. So he is the topmost. So Lord Kṛṣṇa is glorified as Purushottama. He is the best of all men. Purusha also means controller. He is the best of all the controllers. And over here it can be said that Mother Saraswati is changing the meaning to mean that. He is using various words. Like he is saying that you are guptena, you are hidden. And his meaning is that you are hiding in Vrindavan from Kṛṣṇa. Yet at the same time, Mother Saraswati is using the same word by saying that Lord Kṛṣṇa is hiding in our heart as super soul. As our very best friend, he is guiding us. He is ready to guide us every moment of our life. Then he uses the word Tvaya Manda, saying that you are dull-headed. You are not very intelligent. Yet at the same time, Tvaya Amanda. So Tvaya Manda can be split into two. Tvaya Manda is where Jarasangha is meaning that you are dull. But Tvaya Amanda means that you are not dull, you are very alert. So this is also glorifying. So Mother Saraswati is glorifying with the same words that Jarasangha is using to rebuke Lord. And then he says, Bandhuhana. Now Bandhuhana is being called, so this is a demoniac mentality when he calls Lord Kṛṣṇa Bandhuhana, saying that you are a killer of your own relative. Because Lord Kṛṣṇa killed Kṛṣṇa, his maternal uncle. Now it was very clearly identified that before Lord Kṛṣṇa killed Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa had given the order to arrest Nand Maharaj and Vasudeva and even to kill them and drive these two boys, Lord Kṛṣṇa and Balaram, outside the city gates and arrest his own father Ugrasen and Surasen, the father of Vasudeva. And at that time, seeing that he is going to harm his own relatives and he has come down to such a low level, Lord Kṛṣṇa fought with Kṛṣṇa and killed him. Yet at the same time, Jarasandha is saying that you are the one who's Bandhuana, who's a killer of your own relative. Not realizing that Kṛṣṇa had previously killed 6 sons of his own sister, Devaki. So this is a demonic mindset because Jarasandha is only thinking what is beneficial for him, not realizing that what is the truth, what is the fact. So he is completely blinded by affection. And that's what happens when people are in conditioned soul, right? In conditioned state of mind. They are thinking with that I am this body. They're constantly thinking in these factors. Yet at the same time, Saraswati Devi, goddess of learning, she is using the same word, Bandhuhana, to mean the one who severes the bondage in this world and delivers the souls. Bandhu comes from bandha. So bandha is being tied up. So Lord severs the ties in this material world so we can be delivered from this material world. So Goddess Saraswati is singing prayers. Now how do we understand this? So it is very important for this to understand before we discuss how Lord Kṛṣṇa and Balaram fights with Jarasandha and his armies. So Jarasandha at this point says that, Kṛṣṇa, I don't want to fight with you because you are the most fallen. You are very dull, you don't understand what you are doing, and you even kill your own relatives. So that's how he is treating. Then he turns to Lord Balaram and says, Balaram, I will fight with you because you are son of Vasudeva and you are Kshatriya. So you get ready and don't be afraid if your body is going to be cut into pieces by my arrows, or even if I will be killed by you. So before they start the fight, there is a very interesting story that we have to understand before we go further. So once there was this Nawab, and he had a great opulent home, and he had a lot of chandeliers. So his servant would normally go and clean up the crystals on the chandelier after some duration, as he would see dust. So as he was cleaning the chandelier, one of the crystals came loose and fell down. And as soon as it touched the hard surface of the floor, it crashed, making a tingling sound. Now, this Nawab at that time was shaving in the bathroom, and as soon as he heard this sound, he came running. He said, what was that sound? What was that sound? And realizing that this was a very expensive chandelier and that a crystal has broken, the servant was shivering with fear and anxiety. And at the same time, he was an honest servant. So he responded to his master that, Master, I'm so sorry. One of the crystal came loose and it fell on the ground and it broke. So Nawab said, but it was such a melodious sound. Drop another one. So servant is shocked. He's feeling that he didn't hear him correctly. He says, what? The Nawab says, no, drop another crystal. The sound was so nice, so melodious. I like that sound. So he drops another crystal. And as soon as it crashes on the ground, the Nawab says, oh, very nice sound, very nice sound. Drop another one. And the servant drops another crystal. And as soon as it crashes, it makes this tingling sound. And Nawab says, oh, very nice, very nice. Drop another one. And the servant kept dropping. He kept asking to drop another one. The servant kept dropping another one. And every time it would crash on the ground, making that tingling sound. And the Nawab would rejoice, saying, very nice, very nice. And he kept asking till all the crystals in this chandelier were shattered on the floor. Now somebody could look at this example and say, is it bad that those crystals had to be shattered? Well, whose property was it? Nawab's property, right? So he used his property the way he liked. And the servant carried out the instruction of his master, so he was not at fault. The Nawab is not at fault. And the chandelier was property of Nawab. He wants to keep it in whichever form. That's how it looks. Now an empty chandelier with just wires and lamps, places for lamps, doesn't look nice at all because there is no crystal anymore to decorate it. Something like this happens in this battle. Yet at the same time we have to understand, Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarvalok maheshwaram surhidam sarva bhutanam gyatva mam shantyam richati. So not to get disturbed in this pastime, we have to understand from this peace formula, mantra, this verse, that Lord is the beneficiary of all sacrifices. Bhoktaram yagatapasam. And then he is the supreme proprietor, he is the proprietor, owner of all the material universes as well as spiritual universes. Sarva lok maheshwaram, sarva lok maheshwaram. He didn't say sarva mrityu lok. He said sarva lok, all spiritual worlds as well as material worlds. Maheshwaram, he is the proprietor. Suridam sarva bhutanam. And he is the benefactor, he is the well-wisher of all living entities. So when we understand, and now this battle ensues between Lord Kṛṣṇa and Lord Balaram and the 23 Akshayani armies of Jarasandha. then we will be able to understand it in a proper mood. By understanding the example of this Nawab, who is the owner. So Lord Krishna owns everything. And yet at the same time, his mission is Vinashaya cha Dushkritam, because he had appeared as Vasudev to relieve the earth of its burden. And the burden was these kings who were causing havoc, who are actually demons and were causing havoc. So Lord Krishna and Balaram, when they are, before the fight, it just so happens that the women in Mathura, they go on the roofs of their houses and towers to see what is going on. And they see that as Lord Krishna and Balaram are fighting, getting ready to fight, they're completely surrounded by the armies of 23 Akshayani armies. And they can't even see the flags of their chariots. They faint because they always consider Lord Krishna as their life and soul. So these are great personalities who faint because they can't even see Lord Krishna. They are grieving, they are in anxiety, but this is a transcendental anxiety. Understand, this is increasing their love, increasing their affection, increasing their attachment to Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram. So here, Lord Krishna and Balaram, as they start fighting, it appears like the shower of arrows are covering them. But as soon as Lord picks up his bow, Saranga, and gives it a twang, the sound is so tumultuous. Before that, actually, when Lord, he blows his Panchajana, the conch, it has already shattered the hearts of all the soldiers of Jarasandha's armies. And now, as soon as they hear this tumultuous sound of Lord's bow, they are they are in fear. And Lord Krishna and Balaram, they are able to shoot arrows with such an expertise. They have these divine weapons, their own weapons, that they are constant with Lord Krishna. As he's shooting the arrows, he's killing all the soldiers of the opposite armies. So I understand that these are all the soldiers have received this material body. The material body is coming from material energy. Material energy is servant of Lord Krishna. So Devi he Isha Gudamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya Mame Viya Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantite. Now we are going to use this verse in this context, which is in the case of miscreants, right? The soldiers. So Devi he Isha Gudamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya. So Lord Krishna reveals to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita that this material energy of mine, so this is subservient to Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna is transcended to the material energy. He is the master of this material energy. Mama Maya Duratyaya, she is very difficult to overcome. This material nature is very difficult to overcome. So we conditioned soul are always trying to, overcome material energy, but it is very difficult, he is revealing. However, when one surrenders to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, so Devi he Isha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratya Ma Me Vye Prapadyante. So when one approaches the Lord, Prapadyante, and takes his shelter, Maya Metam Tarantite, then one can easily cross over this material ocean, right? This ocean of nascence. So here all these soldiers are approaching Lord with the mood of fighting, right? So what is their goal? When a soldier is fighting, his focus is on the enemy, right? And what is their focus? They are thinking of Lord Krishna, to attack Lord Krishna. And they are getting shot by the arrows of Lord Krishna. So their meditation is constantly on Lord Krishna. So they are approaching in a different mood. But it's a secondary bhav, right? We talk about the 5 primary rasas, where as servitude, dasya ras, then we have vatsalya ras, sakhya ras, madhurya ras, and then there is shant ras. However, these soldiers are in the viri ras, which is a secondary rasa. And in that mood, they are fighting with Lord Krishna. So being shot by their arrows, when Lord Krishna was shooting the arrows, we have to understand that all these animals, even elephants, they are getting killed, horses are getting killed, all the soldiers are getting killed, their hands are getting severe, their legs are getting severe, their heads are getting chopped off. And it appears that there is a ocean, there is a river of blood floating, where these arms are floating like snakes, and their heads are appearing like turtles, and their hair is appearing like weeds and mosses in the waters, and the bows are appearing like waves, the bows of the warriors as they are, and the elephants are appearing like small islands, then they are floating in this river of blood. So it's like flowing heavily all around. And even Lord Balaram with his hull, with his plow, he is causing this river to overflow. And in this manner, they destroy everyone in the army except Jarasandha. And Lord Balaram, using the noose of Varun Dev, and when you say of noose, we think of generally the cowboys, right? Having this noose being thrown, but he catches Jarasandha and ties him up with ropes, various kinds of ropes. And at that time, Lord Kṛṣṇa, understanding that if he lets go Jarasandha at this time, Jarasandha is feeling humiliated. He's a Kshatriya, right? He has this Veer Rasa, he is a Kshatriya. He would either win on the battlefield or he would lose his life. And he said that, he declared it, I'm ready to lose my life. He told Lord Balaram that you can kill me. Yet at the same time, he has not been killed, yet he has been defeated. Humiliated so badly because 23 Akshahinis versus a very small army, not even a full Akshahini. And two warriors, two chariots, warriors, Lord Balaram and Lord Kṛṣṇa. And alone, there's just these two charioteers, along with all these small phalanx, has defeated 23 Akshahini armies, killed, destroyed. He's shattered, he's humiliated, he is feeling shame, and he's ready to sacrifice. Yet at the same time, Lord Kṛṣṇa thinks about this factor, that if I let him go, he will bring another army. That will make my purpose very easy. So in one action, Lord Kṛṣṇa is solving many purposes. So he, consoles Lord Balaram to release Jarasandha. Now Jarasandha is feeling humiliated. He is coming back home defeated, humiliated, and he is ready to give up his kingdom. He is so humiliated. He is feeling so humiliated. So that is a Kshatriya bhav, the mode of passion is kind of arising him to feel in this manner. And he wants to give up. Yet at the same time, his well-wishers, other kings who are his friends and his advisors, they are saying, actually, it is not possible for you to be defeated in this battle because there are 23 Akshahini armies you took, right? It is just your misfortune and the reaction of your past karmas that has caused you to face defeat. So it is not your fault at all. You should again build an army and go and attack on Mathura. And Jarasandha, so this is where people rationalize. Another important lesson. If you split rationalize into two words, you can say rational plus lies. So very logically, they are presenting lies to a king, who has just been defeated, who has been humiliated, and asking them to go back to the battlefield, gather an army, build an army and go back and attack, and this time you will definitely win. Well, Jarasandha builds up another army, 23 Akshahinis, again the same size. Now it is very interesting, look at the size of his armies. During the battle of Kurukshetra, at the battle of Kurukshetra, Kauravas had 11 Akshahinis and Pandavas had 7 Akshahinis, total 18 Akshahinis. Jarasandha is going and attacking Mathura every time with 5 more Akshahinis than the total of the number of armies at the battle of Kurukshetra. So here, Jarasandha goes again with 23 Akshahini armies. He is attacking Mathura. Lord Kṛṣṇa and Balaram, they are coming out and they are destroying it every time. Lord Balaram is tying up Jarasandha every time and he is feeling humiliated. Then Lord Kṛṣṇa is making Lord Balaram release Jarasandha, and feeling humiliated, he comes back and his friends tell him the same thing again and again. So it's repeating how many times? 17 times. And every time, even the 17 times if somebody says that, it is because of your misfortune and the reaction of your past karma, somebody would think how much more the reaction would be coming. But Jarasandha is somehow feeling consoled because it's just like Pundarika. He was believing that he is Krishna himself, he is Vasudeva. So just like that, Jarasandha, under the influence of the material energy and under the influence and the advice of his friends, demoniac friends, he is building the army. Well, he plans to do it 18th time as well. But before he does that, it just so happens that Kalyavan, he was a son of a Yavana king, and but he was a seminal son of Gargamuni. So that's another story that comes in. He attacks Mathura, and very interestingly, and how many soldiers does he have? 30 million barbaric soldiers. So Srila Prabhupada very nicely explained in Krishna book that Yavanas and Malichas, they are even below the 4 Varnas. So Lord Krishna reveals in Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarna Maya, Chaturvarna Maya Shishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. So he is the one who has created the 4 Varnas, and these are based on one's guna and karma, one's nature, the influence with which we are born, modes of material nature, because of that influence, and karma, by our actions, our activities, what kind of activities we engage in, that determine which varna we belong to. So there is nowhere Lord Krishna says Janma. However, in chapter 7, Lord Krishna does reveal that a devotee, if he is advanced devotee, then he takes birth. After many, many births, he enjoys in the higher planetary system and then takes birth in the family of a transcendentalist. And if he is not so advanced devotee, then he takes birth in an aristocratic family. And so that is there so that one gets an opportunity to re-engage oneself in devotional service and complete the journey. It is not meant to just enjoy the material opulence that one has received or the opportunity one has received. One should not disregard that. So here, Lord Krishna is revealing Guna Karma Vibhagasha. But then, what are the 4 Varnas? Brahman, who is influenced, who is born and under the modes of goodness. So that's first. Second is Kshatriya. Kshatriya is who is under the influence of mode of passion. And then Vaishya is mercantile, they take care of cows, taking care of cows, doing farming, agriculture and trade. They are under the mixed mode of passion as well as mode of ignorance. And then Shudra, who is the service class. And they basically serve the other 3 Varnas. And by doing this activity, and they are under the mode of ignorance, they can, each of the Varnas, when engaged in Varnashram Dharma, one can progress spiritually and go back home, finally elevating to mode of goodness and go back home, back to Godhead. Yet devotional service is transcendental to all these 4, Varnas, and basically the 3 modes of material nature. So it's transcendental to the 3 modes of material nature. And by engaging devotional service, again, even Prahlad Maharaj says that even a dog eater, even a chandal, can go back home, back to Godhead. So that is where, because he's saying, Prahlad Maharaj is revealing, when he is praying to Narasimhadev, that even a Brahman sometimes cannot attain perfection just for himself. But a devotee who is even a chandal, right, can, help everyone who is engaged in devotional service, can attain perfection not just for himself, but all the people around him. And Narasimhadev Bhagwan, he even reveals to Prahlad Maharaj that because Prahlad Maharaj is a devotee, 21 generations can be delivered. So here, Kalyavan has been incited by who? So why did Kalyavan even attack Mathura? Somebody can ask. Because he was incited by none other than sage Narad. Kalyavan was a very powerful Yavana. So who is Malecha and Yavana? Who don't even follow any of the Varnas, who go against the injunction and live whimsically. They're just thinking that they are all in all and they are engaging in all kind of abominable activities. Those are Malechas and Yavanas and Chandals. So those are even the 5th and 6th, 7th categories, so outside the 4 Varnas. So he was son of one such Yavana king. Now, how was in Vishnu Puran it is revealed that Gargamuni, he was once rebuked by his brother-in-law, who called him eunuch. So when the Yaduvas, the residents of Mathura, the descendants of Yadu, when they heard about this, now he is their spiritual master. Yet at the same time, when they heard, and Garg Muni, he did not have very attractive features. His features would generally, would be in a manner that people would, sometimes we see someone. Yes. So when they see someone, they kind of like, feel like, making joke or ridiculing other person. So his features were not so attractive. So, and when he was called by his brother, so this is again another place that we learn that you should not call other people names because it can hurt them very well. And worse than that is, you become party of such people who are calling another person with a name, bad names. Then, who is Garg Muni? He is the spiritual master of the Yaduvas, the descendants of King Yadu. And he is the spiritual master of Lord Kṛṣṇa and Lord Balaram. And he feels so hurt that he decides to have a son who will cause terror in the hearts of Yaduvas, the descendants of Yadu, the residents of Mathura. So he is with such an anger and he is feeling so hurt that he decides that he wants to have a son. And so he worships Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is called Ashutosh. One, he is easily pleased and easily angered. So he pleases Lord Shiva, and he pleases Lord Shiva and he says that please give me a son who is so powerful that he can cause terror in the hearts of Yaduvas. So at that time, Lord Shiva grants him that wish. Now, there was a Yavan king, a barbaric king, and he did not have a son. Yet, he approaches Garg Muni to beget a son. So in his wife, Garg Muni is able to beget a son in her womb. In the womb of this Yavan king's wife. And this is Kal Yavan, born. And he is very powerful because of the blessing given by Lord Shiva. And this austerity that Garg Muni performed was also very difficult because all he was eating was grounded iron when he was performing this austerity, this big sacrifice to satisfy Lord Shiva. So he was causing great difficulty for his own body, but because his anger was more painful, his being rebuked and being laughed upon was more painful, he did not even feel the pain of eating that grounded, the powdered iron. So that is sometimes how much the words can hurt someone. And even people who are siding with person who's calling other person name could even hurt more than that. We heard the story of Shadgarbhas. When they laughed at Lord Brahma, they were cursed by Lord Brahma, so they became sons of Kalnemi, descendant of Diti, so they became Daityas. And then they were cursed by Hiranyakashipu. So they became the 6 sons of Devaki who were killed by their own father Kalnemi, who appeared as Kansa. So again, laughing at someone or even supporting someone who's calling other person names or even engaging, this is very bad thing, very, very bad thing, and it has been said to be compared to really abominable things, acts. One should not even engage there. If you want to engage in something, engage in glorification of Lord Kṛṣṇa, engage in reading and relishing his pastimes. And this is where Garg Muni was so much in pain that he asked for such a boon, which was just to cause havoc, not to support humanity. And so Kal Yavan was born, and he was so powerful that he could not consider any human on earth to be his competitor. So he was going around defeating one king after another king, and then he meets Narad Muni. So he asked that who is capable of fighting with me? Is there anyone? So Narad Muni at that time glorified the Yaduvas, the descendants of King Yadu. So he, while glorifying, he gave him the description of Lord Kṛṣṇa. That Lord Kṛṣṇa, he is this bluish, dark bluish form. His eyes are like lotus petals. He has Shivatsa, the white curly hair in the middle of his chest. He wears Kaustubhamani, his forearm form. And he has got perfect, long, beautiful arms, He has a very pleasing face, very strong shoulders, 3 lines on his stomach and so forth. He wears yellow garments and so forth. So Kalyavan was, completely mesmerized. He was looking for Lord Krishna to fight, and he asked, where do I find him? He says, okay, go to Mathura, that's where they live, all the Vrishnis, and you defeat them. If you can defeat them, that would be the glorious act. He goes and surrounds with his 30 million barbaric soldiers the whole city of Mathura. And now Lord Krishna is thinking, Kalyavan has surrounded the city of Mathura, and Jarasandha would come here maybe next year or maybe the day after. And if we are fighting with Kalyavan, this Jarasandha, our father-in-law of Kans, he could capture the residents of Mathura and cause torment. He can cause agony and he can cause a lot of anxiety to the residents of Mathura. So at that time, Lord, with the influence of his Yoga Maya, builds a beautiful fort in the waters. So this is Dvārakā, and the city within covered by this fort. So this fort is so nicely, this is like so amazing scientific construction that no current construction can even match that. We only see it in fairy tales. And the description is given that this shows all the expertise of Vishwakarma, who is the architect of the demigods. First of all, the walls are built so that no man or a beast or a rakshas, even a demon, can enter this city, which is covered by this fort. And it's in the waters. It's for the west. It's said to be for the west, 40 miles west of Gujarat, the seashore of Gujarat. And there it is made up of opulent palaces, big nice ponds and lakes. It is the most opulent city built by Vishwakarma, and it has many magnanimous qualities. There is a description coming of Sudharma Assembly Hall, that Indradev gives Sudharma Assembly Hall. He gives Parijat tree, which has Parijat flowers, and Parijat is a tree which has these amazing flowers with amazing fragrance, and it came out during the churning of the ocean earlier. So, and that Varun Dev gave horses which were like all blue and some were white, and the treasure of the demigods Kuvera gave these mystic abilities to attain the various mystic treasures. So that 8 types of mystic treasures, and all demigods, 33 crore demigods, they all gave, because everything belongs to Lord Krishna. So they want to offer something to Lord Krishna in service. So when you receive something, you offer it back to Lord Krishna, and so that is very pleasing to Lord, that we are grateful for what we have received. And so they are offering, they are taking this as an opportunity. So just in no time, this city has been built. Now somebody could say, how could somebody build a city in one night? Well, in the case of Rasa dance, we saw how Lord Krishna expanded that, of the Sharad Purnima, that night, as long as night of Lord Brahma, which is 4,320 million years long. So of course, in one night, Lord, with the influence of his Yoga Maya, can build. So with the influence of Yoga Maya, this whole fort is built and a beautiful city is built, and there are many glorious forms in this city is glorified, that there were amazing palaces. So every resident had a palace to live in. They had beautiful gardens around these palaces. There was, abundance of land, and there were beautiful gardens all around. Ponds were there, and all kind of birds, they were there. The lotuses were growing everywhere, and people in their palaces, as I said, on the gates, there were pillars which had the top parts made of crystals. The doors were made of gold. The palaces were made of gold, and there were all precious stones were being used for the walls and for the floors. And even the beds were ornamented with precious jewels. And there were emeralds even on the gates and so forth. And then it said that even the trees were desire trees. So this is where it looks like what we hear in Brahma Samhita. Chintamani prakar sadmashu kalpa vriksha laksha vratesha surabhir abhipalayantam. So this is a description of Golok Vrindavan. But a glimpse of this is there, that the roads in the spiritual world is made up of touchstone, right? And the trees are desire trees. And Lakshmi says the Sambramya Sevyamanam. And there are hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis, they're constantly serving Lord Kṛṣṇa. So that is the description of gopis. But here the women of Mathura, they are also in constant remembrance of Lord Kṛṣṇa. They are also constantly serving Lord Kṛṣṇa. So Lord Kṛṣṇa builds this Dvārakā, and just in one night, with the influence of his Yog Maya, he consults this with Balaram that Kalyavan is here, so we have to take care of Kalyavan while Jarasandha is approaching with his army. So, he transfers all the residents in that night itself with the influence of his Yog Maya, his internal potency, to Dvārakā. So you can imagine these residents, they went to sleep in Mathura, they woke up in this golden castles, palaces, and the biggest palace in the center is that of King Ugrasen. And they are very nice, storehouses for grains, stables for horses. There is very nice description given, which are made up of copper and iron to keep them very nicely in their arrangement, the best arrangement that is possible for those kind of activities and those kind of arrangements. So here Lord Kṛṣṇa has built, transferred everyone, and everyone is living in these palaces. They have the Vishnu deities in their puja graha. So every palace has a puja graha, quarters for the deities. They have a watchtowers. Now watchtowers has two purposes. Sometimes when you see a big parade, then you use the watchtower to go and appreciate the parade. Another places when you are attacked, then you use the watchtower to see who's attacking and how far they are. But these watchtowers are mainly to be able to see Lord Kṛṣṇa and the royal parades and all the residents. So we normally see in India, we have terraces where people go, and we used to watch all the parades as they would go along, on the roads. So this is where it has been referred more from that purposes, to be more blissful, to be transcendentally engaged when Lord Kṛṣṇa and Lord Balaram are passing through the road. And similarly, when after every time, when 17 times Lord Kṛṣṇa and Balaram, they defeated Jarasandha, every time when they came back, not one soldier in their small phalanx was hurt. So, and Lord Kṛṣṇa and Lord Balaram, when they came back, everyone was jubilantly welcoming them. And there were musicians singing glories of Lord Kṛṣṇa and Lord Balaram. And people were building garlands after garlands to, welcome Lord Kṛṣṇa and Lord Balaram for their victory. Every time they were killing 23 Akshayani armies. So you can imagine what Lord Kṛṣṇa must be feeling when he was seeing just 11 Akshayani armies on the Kaurava side and 7 Akshayani armies on the Pandava side. It was nothing. He had 23 times more. Why? Because together they were like 18, and now Kalyavan has come with 30 million barbaric soldiers which are going to be killed again. So this is where this particular chapter is ending, where Lord Kṛṣṇa reveals to Lord Balaram that having transferred that, you become the protector. So Lord Balaram stays in Mathura to protect the residents, while Lord Kṛṣṇa, he goes out of the gates of Mathura city in his four-arm form without carrying any weapon. So here there are 30 million barbaric soldiers ready to fight, and a beautiful personality, Lord Kṛṣṇa, is coming in his four-arm Vishnu form, not carrying any weapon, no Sudarshan, no Gada, right? Just having his conch, his Padma, and barehanded he's running. And it's very interesting, as Kalyavan is looking, he's seeing Lord Kṛṣṇa with his bare hands, he's running through, and he's running through his soldiers, right? He's just passing through, completely unharmed, and they are not even able to stop him. Yet at the same time, Kalyavan is meditating on Lord Kṛṣṇa's form, because he had heard this description from Devashi Narad. He has heard that Krishna has this dark bluish complexion like of a fresh raining clouds. His eyes are like lotus petals. He has very pleasing, body parts. His body is, and he sees the Shivatsa, the white curly hair in the middle of his chest. That's where Goddess Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, she resides. And that he's wearing Kaustubha Mani. So Kaustubha Mani is also there. He's seeing that he's dressed in yellow garments. Yes, he's dressed in yellow garments. So he immediately sees that his arms are very nicely shaped. He has those 3 lines on his stomach. He has this pleasing smile. And he's so enchanting. And he's passing through his own soldiers. And completely unharmed. At that time, Kalyavan, he decides to fight with Lord barehanded. Why? Because he sees that the opposing party does not have any weapon. So how should he have weapon? Even Kalyavan in this particular case has this influence from the Garga Muni, that he is somehow looking to follow some injunction of the Shastras. While in the case of Kṛṣṇa, when Lord Krishna jumped on his dais, what did he do? Because of panic, because of the fear of death, he picked up his shield and a sword and to fight with Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna was barehanded. So he with bare hands, Lord Krishna approached to fight. And Kṛṣṇa, this is where he is not so glorified. He is actually identified that he gave up his position as a Kshatriya. Because a Kshatriya would fight with an equal status, keeping themselves with the opposite party. If the opposite party doesn't have weapons, then they would provide them a weapon, so that they have sufficient capability to fight. And if they don't accept any weapon, then they would give up their weapon and fight with their own hands, barehanded, wrestling or fighting. Yet at the same time, Kalyavan is showing that he, even though he is a Yavana, he is below the 4 Varnas. He decides to fight with Lord Krishna because he was thinking that he is so powerful. So again, this is also another factor. Not just he wanted to, because he wanted to be proud. Somebody could say, wait a minute, we are comparing him to a Kshatriya. No, we are comparing him to the pride that causes him to act in this manner. He was always looking for a strong contender. Now, if a strong contender comes in front of him and he uses his weapons, then what is his glory? He wanted to really experience this Veer Rasa. So he decided that because Lord Krishna in his 4-arm form, Lord Vasudeva is running through, he decides to go, he drops his weapons and decides to fight arm in arm, right? So he's chasing Lord Krishna. Now there is very amazing lesson. So this Yavana, Kalyavan, he had never performed any devotional service. So how can he catch Lord Krishna? It is said very nicely that by the Acharyas, that even a yogi who is performing great austerities and sacrifices throughout their life, get very little capability to run, and try to catch Lord Krishna. Even when they can't catch, then how can this Yavan king, Kalyavan, how can he catch Lord Krishna who has not performed any devotional service? However, when one has performed devotional service with pure heart and has become a pure devotee of Lord Krishna allows himself to be caught. Right? Just like Yashoda Mai. She was able to catch Lord Krishna when he was running. That's the Damodar Leela. And even Queen Kunti in her prayers, when she is singing, she is glorifying this gopi. It's bewildering to Queen Kunti that this gopi was able to not just catch Lord Krishna, but also bind him with ropes. And we understand as devotees that those were the ropes of affection, of love, of her motherly feelings towards Lord Krishna. And it was more of a time-out situation, right? In current times, we use the concept of time-out for kids, but it was a loving time-out, where she was binding, but she could not bind Lord Krishna even then. She was perspiring, and all the gopis, the elderly gopis, were watching as Mother Yashoda was trying to bind Lord Krishna, and the rope was every time coming short by 2 fingers. And she was getting more ropes and tying it many more meters long, and every time she would go around Lord Krishna, come back, it was short by 2 fingers. She was wondering, what is this? And all the gopis, elderly gopis, they were looking at this and all were laughing. that this is very interesting. Mother Yashoda is getting such long ropes tied into the rope she already has, and every time is coming short by 2 fingers. And they were bringing in ropes, giving it to Mother Yashoda. And Mother Yashoda was perspiring because of this heavy endeavor. And at that time, Lord allowed himself to be bound. Why? Because these 2 fingers, what do they represent? The distance short by 2 fingers. First is our endeavor, and second is Lord's mercy. Yes, we can make our endeavor, but unless we get Lord's mercy, it is not possible for us to attain Lord Kṛṣṇa. So by this example, he is showing us, Acharyas are revealing to us, that we have to continue to make an endeavor. Yet at the same time, we have to also see that Lord is merciful to us. There is a very nice example Srila Prabhupada used to give. So a son sees his father lifting weight every day. His father is lifting weight every day. And so one day, the son goes to the weight room and he's trying to lift the weight. Now father is passing from the back and he sees that his son is trying to lift the weight. So the father goes behind his son, puts his arms around and lifts the weight. And now the son feels, oh, I have lifted the weight, right? So who lifted the weight? Somebody could ask. People would say, well, the father lifted the weight because son did not have the capability to lift the weight. Well, had the father lifted the weight, could he have lifted the weight if he had not seen his son trying to lift the weight? No, he would not have. So because he saw his son making an endeavor, he lifted the weight, and the child got this feeling that he has achieved what was not actually achievable easily. So similarly, a devotee has the same feeling. We engage ourselves in service of the Lord with love, with gratitude, with the mood to satisfy our spiritual master, who is a representative of Lord Kṛṣṇa. A bona fide spiritual master is a representative of Lord Kṛṣṇa, who is always engaging us in service of Lord Kṛṣṇa, in devotional service, because he is constantly engaged in devotional service. He is constantly engaged in pleasing the Lord and pleasing Lord's devotees. So, we seek to please our spiritual master, dasanu das bhav, and also with the ultimate aim of pleasing Lord Kṛṣṇa. So we are working together with other devotees, we are working with our spiritual master, we are working with and serving exalted Vaishnavas with the mood that we want to satisfy Lord Kṛṣṇa. That is, our state is like that small child who is trying to lift this weight which is out of our capability. Yet at the same time, Lord is so merciful and our spiritual master is so merciful that they can enable us to achieve what is not easily achievable in this life. It is very nicely said, Samashita ye pad pallava plavam mahat padam punya yasho murare bhavam bhuri vats padam param padam yat vipadam natesham. Samashita ye pad pallava plavam. So, Sama Ashrita. So, Lord's lotus feet are the perfect shelter. Sama Ashrita, the perfect shelter. And Pad Pallava Plavam. Pad is his lotus feet, Lord Kṛṣṇa's lotus feet. Pallav is the boat. And Padam is, again, they are like lotus. They are so soft. Lord's feet, the toenails are glistening. They are glowing like gems. And his feet are so wonderful. So they are the perfect shelter. They are the perfect boat. So all we need to do is get onto this boat. Just hold on to Lord's lotus feet by engaging in devotional service. Samashita ye pad pallava plavam mahat padam punya yasho murare. Mahat padam. So he is the cause of all the material universes. And he is all auspicious. And he is also known as Murari, the enemy of Mura demon. Bhavam Buddhir. So this Bhavam Buddhir, so this Bhavasagar that we have, this ocean of nations, this material world is like an ocean, turns into Vatsapadam, as small as a calf's hoof print. Now anybody can jump over calf's hoof print, right? So it turns, this ocean turns into the size of a calf's hoof print and can achieve Parampadam, can go back home to Vaikuntha, go back home, back to Godhead, and not stay here. Padam yat vipadam natesham, and does not stay here in this material world where there is danger at every step. Padam padam, at every step. Yat vipadam natesham, there is danger at every step in this material world. So this material world is a place of misery. It's temporary in nature. Nothing is consistent. Today there is COVID-19, tomorrow there will be something else. That's why Srila Prabhupada, I was reading his lecture, and so nicely he says that don't care about what's going on in this material world. Just finish your business here. We are spirit souls. We have to finish our business here and go back home, back to Godhead. We are like the fish out of water. And when a fish is out of water on land, what does it want? Does it want nice food? Does it want nice shade to save it from sun? Does it want nice jewelry? No. It doesn't want a nice house? No. All it wants is, it wants to go back in water. And we are in this material world, we are in this place of misery. And we are out of water. We are yearning to go back in water. And to be able to go back in water, we have to call out for Lord's mercy so that we can go back home, back to Godhead. And how do you call out? Just by simply holding your hands high, raising your hands and chanting, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So with that mode, we should be calling out for the Lordships. And Lord is showing that in this example, this Kaliyavan is trying to chase him, to catch him. And Lord Kṛṣṇa is passing through his own, the Kaliyavan's soldiers, all these barbaric soldiers, and nobody is able to touch him. And Kaliyavan is meditating on Lord Kṛṣṇa's form, his four-armed Vishnu form, as he is chasing him. He is chasing Lord Vasudeva. And Lord Vasudeva goes inside a cave in a mountain. And seeing him go inside the cave, Kaliyavan is thinking, oh, he is very fearful of me. He is so fearful that he is trying to hide himself in a cave. And this is where this chapter ends. And we hear as how Lord is so merciful that even the armies that he annihilated were able to go back home, back to Godhead. And that's how all the weight of this world was released. So Lord is ocean of mercy, even for the miscreants, even the ones who are coming to fight with him. And he is an ocean of mercy for the residents of Mathura, because now he has transferred them. So Lord is so merciful that he is ready to share all his opulences with us. And he transfers all the residents of Mathura to Dvārakā. So now these are known as the residents of Dvārakā, Dvārakā Vasis. Right? Previously they were Mathura Vasis. We'll discuss some glories of Mathura as well as Dvārakā later on as well. But it is so glorious that now no man can enter, so they are perfectly protected. And it's in the waters, so it's an island on the waters, it is said. And we will give more description, but it has used the technology in such a manner that when somebody has to go, which we hear in the case of Chitralekha and others, when they had to go, Devashi Narad even helps them to do some things which were not something, people would take it easily. But you could go to a region on the land, on the shore, where you would, just like a black hole concept, right? You're present here, but at the same time you become visible there and you can enter into that other realm. People have this concept of time travel through space, a spot in space. You enter that spot and you can be suddenly in galaxies away in space. So it is that kind of technology being used by Vishwakarma to allow people to go across the ocean so easily. That's why Lord on his chariot is coming from out of Dvārakā and is going straight onto the land on Bharatvarsh. So somebody could say he did not take a boat. No, he didn't have to, because the technology was so advanced. And now today we find the same technology being revealed in fairy tales. When we look at fairy tales and we hear about these incidents, we should understand all these concepts are coming from the wonderful building construction and the science that was being used in building of Dvārakā, where people could cross even waters through walking on a land with specific zones, and mystical powers were there. So this is all arranged by Lord's Yogamaya. And there were 3 gates even for entering Dvārakā. And those three gates have their own significance, and we will hear more about it later on, as how Arjun is able to cross those three gates, because it is said that no human or a beast could enter into Dvārakā. Now you would say, wait a minute, but Arjun was able to enter into Dvārakā because he was dressed as a sage. However, even though he was dressed as a sage, he had this special potency. He was under the influence of Yog Maya, and she was guiding him. And Yog Maya is the one who created all this arrangement. So she was guiding him to enter into Dvārakā. So there are instances where the devotees and Lord's internal potency, His own mercy through devotees, guides us in our life, and we are able to achieve things that are otherwise unattainable. And Lord is an ocean of mercy. Even for the soldiers who were killed, they attained Vaikuntha, and for the residents of Mathura, they attained residences, palaces in Dvārakā, with abundance of all necessities of life, and full shelter of Lord Kṛṣṇa and Lord Balaram. And Lord Balaram is the protector of Dvārakā. Now it is also said that Dvārakā is within the region of Mathura. And people get confused, wait a minute, Dvārakā is so far off, further west and in the ocean, how could it be part of Mathura? A very nice example can be given, that there are 50 states in the United States, and one of them is Alaska. Yet it's considered part of the United States. Alaska is a separate state, and between Alaska and the United States there is whole Canada. Yet at the same time, Alaska is part of the United States, even though it is outside, it's not connected to any of the states on any of its boundaries. Similarly, Dvārakā, even though it was outside the Mathura district per se, it was still considered within the reign of Mathura. So this is where the chapter ends, where Kalyavan is chasing Lord Kṛṣṇa, and Lord Kṛṣṇa has entered inside a cave in his four-arm Vishnu form. And we should meditate on this and see that Lord is so magnanimous, He is so merciful, and He is so loving. Bhoktaram yagatapsam sarvalok maheshwaram sahridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. So once we understand that Lord is our best well-wisher, He is our benefactor, we can be at peace. And we should engage our time, like we get instructions from Srila Prabhupada again and again, in chanting the holy name, in engaging in devotional service, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, reading Bhagavad Gita, and constantly, relishing this transcendental literature, which is Amal Puran, which is the ripened fruit of Vedic wisdom. And it has been spoken by Shukdev Goswami himself. So it has become even more relishable. Hare Krishna, this is where the class ends. Please join us for Nasimha Devati. Hare Krishna. Gantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Anant Kori Vaishnav Vind ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. बोले हरि हरि बोल। भक्त विनाशक नसगते भगवान की जय। प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। शिला प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत करुणा गोविंद की जय। हरे कृष्णा।